What does it take to be a champion?
It takes dedication, for sure, 100%. That vision, and you have to know. Like I knew when I was like 6 or 7. When I seen Bruce Lee, I seen Jackie Chan. I knew when I was young I wanted to do this from when I was a kid.
And did you know you wanted to be, did you know that you could be a champion?
I knew I could be. I just didn't know how to be a champion. I knew I could survive in ass whooping.
Yeah.
I would get beat up, I would get jumped, I would get whatever it was. And I would get up and go back to the same playground, the same, whatever it was. And I knew I could take it. I had to give it. I didn't know how to give it, So it just took time to learn how to.
Welcome to the Spear and Clover Podcast, the show where military mindset meets the spirit of the puppy. I'm your host, Jason Skisick, the entrepreneurial evangelist, and each week I bring you the stories of visionaries who see the world as it could be and can't help but take action. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and review. This is the best way to stay in the loop when we drop new content. Hey, entrepreneurs, does any of this sound familiar? Have you hired only A players, purchased the latest fire plays from so-called gurus, consistently almost become an elite organization, only to have it result in talented employees regressing to mediocrity, tactical plays spiking performance and then fading away quickly, managers losing discipline and hunger and then either leaving or just coasting? Do you really think the difference between you and the industry-leading team is a hire or a slick new marketing play? That's the same tired crap my Chicago Bears have shoved down my throat for over 30 years. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers have had 2 coaches for 50 years, they've had 2 quarterbacks for 20 years, and they're a contender every single year. Many leaders buy the best playbooks, they draft the best talent, and hire the best coaches, and year after year return without trophies. Who could blame them? Most business coaches and so-called gurus only sell tactical playbooks designed to provide a brief spike followed by a return to business as usual. The truth is, winning is simple. You need a clear North Star supported by managers and role players that have absolutely zero uncertainty about how they can help the team win today. Our simple program helps you become a dynasty organization from top to bottom. Dynasty Defined not only helps you structure a team that's capable of consistently winning championships, but once you do, they'll be writing their own playbooks, recruiting the best talent, and calling their own plays from the field. So, the choice is yours. Continue to hope that the next hire or brand new marketing play will finally solve all your problems, or commit to winning permanently, roll up your sleeves, and let's get started defining your dynasty. I am beyond proud to announce that we are now accepting applications for Dynasty Defined. Cohorts are limited to 6 entrepreneurs, and they fill up quickly, so head on over to www.spearandclover.com now and claim your spot. I can't wait to see you on the inside. How's it going, man?
It's going good.
Yeah.
It's going good.
For starters, happy birthday, brother.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'm honored that you're telling your story to me today, that you chose me to help you tell your story, and that we're doing it on your birthday. We've only known each other for a short while, but I'm sure we have many, many years of a great relationship to come, so thank you. So just to kick us off, man, what does it take to be a champion?
It takes dedication, for sure, 100%. You have to have vision, and you have to know. Like I knew when I was like 6 or 7. When I seen Bruce Lee, I seen Jackie Chan, I seen the old school videos of martial arts stuff. That was always the weak guy learning martial arts and overcoming life. And I sucked that my whole life. I never found somebody to teach me anything. So I finally found a group of guys that helped me out. And then I met Del Hiva and Carlson Gracie, and I progressed into a whole lifestyle.
So you knew that you wanted to pursue this when you were very young?
I knew when I was young I wanted to do this from when I was a kid.
And did you know you wanted to be, did you know that you could be a champion?
I knew I could be. I just didn't know how to be a champion. I knew I could survive in ass whooping.
Yeah.
I would get beat up, I would get jumped, I would get whatever it was. And I would get up and go back to the same playground, the same, whatever it was. And I knew I could take it. I had to give it. I didn't know how to give it, So I just took time to learn how to.
Where did you start? What type of martial arts did you start with? Were you starting with striking?
When I first started, I started with karate, and that shit didn't work. I did taekwondo, and that didn't work. And I did kung fu, and that didn't work. And as I progressed in my seeking of knowledge, I found jiu-jitsu. I was 13, 14. I seen Horace Gracie win the UFC, and I was like, oh shit. A small guy beat all these big guys, and he was wearing a gi. So I'm like, dude, I could do the same shit. So I just, I had found jiu-jitsu. But there was no black belts in the area. No black belts. I had to travel and find guys. I had to go to Brazil a month, 2 months at a time, stuff like that.
So you went to Brazil for the first time to learn jiu-jitsu. How old?
I was 20 years old.
Okay. And when did you start to compete in jiu-jitsu, and when did you start to compete in fighting?
I started competing in fighting when I was 17, going on 18, and I started fighting. And then I didn't do jiu-jitsu until I was about 20, 21. I tore my ACL. I had 6, 7 months off, rehab, all that stuff. I did a fight and I lost. It was a decision. I shouldn't have lost the fight, but I got tired. I just wasn't ready. I came back too fast. And then after that, I changed my whole mentality where I had to have a semblance of a trainer or somebody to help me out. And that's when I started traveling around. I'd find out Hilo, I'd find Carlson, I'd find different guys. Frost, Sahabi. I'd find guys that were they would have helped me out, they had more experience than me in fighting.
Yeah, and so, let's talk about that a little bit. So when you first started fighting, you were 17. Who were you training with then? What was that picture like? Where were you at? Who was training with you?
In the beginning, it was Miguel Torres, Daniel Pantoja, Clifford Radford, and Eugene Calderon. And they were the 4 coaches. Yeah. Clifford was a boxer. Eugene did taekwondo, but also did kickboxing. Miguel and Daniel also did taekwondo and kickboxing, but they're more jiu-jitsu guys. And Hickson came to Chicago at some point before that and did a big seminar. It was a 4-hour seminar, 3 hours a day, hardcore.
Yeah.
If you survived that seminar, you got a blue belt. And these guys all got blue belts. And that was the guys in the areas. So if you had a blue belt in the old days, in the 90s, you were a stud. You were you were a champion. It didn't matter if you had black belt in karate or taekwondo. It didn't matter. If you're a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, you beat those guys.
Wow.
And we started training. We were looking for fights. We were all going to fight. And I was the only guy that fought. And then I kept progressing. I fought every month. I was addicted. I fought every month. And I started fighting and making more experiences and learning more and training with other guys and doing other things. I beat my instructors, the guys that were teaching me. And then they stopped training and they stopped teaching. And just lived their lives. And I took over the gym. And after that, that's when I opened my own place and started growing up. Where am I now?
So you're starting to fight. At that time, so we're talking 98, 97, 99, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
99. So at that time, if you don't know, there was not nearly the MMA scene that there is now. So where are we fighting at? Are we fighting in bars? Are we fighting in gymnasiums? Where are we fighting?
We're fighting. So there was flyers at gyms and the school and stuff like that, Finkies and the Silver Bullet and different little bars that were closed on Mondays usually, but they would open up for fights and stuff like that. And they would hold these fights, and I always see those flyers, and I was just so excited. I know I can do that. I knew I could win a fight. I just didn't know how to fight yet.
Yeah.
So just pursuing knowledge.
And are you fighting people your size, or is this openly?
Oh, in the old days, there was no way. In the old days, there was 160 and under, and then 160 to 190, and then 190 and above, or whatever it was. And it was lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight, and super heavyweight. So there was a cutoff. So if you weighed 160, you were in the 160 division. And they had you guys fight 135, 140. It didn't matter. Yeah. And there was 3 scales. There was a shitty scale that weighed whatever, a medium scale that was kind of fucked up, and then a real scale. And you go into the weigh-ins, and you sign your name, you sign your nickname, your birthday, you sign your whatever signature for a waiver, and then you just fall somebody. And they would just look at the papers, and they were like big guys, and they would fight each other.
Yeah.
That was the old days.
So you fought primarily 135, right?
No, I fought 116 under.
But I mean, throughout your major career.
Through my major career, yes. I fought 135 under, yes.
So 135, and whatever you were weighing then.
I moonlighted at 45 as well, after my career started going into like the end.
Yeah. But I guess the question is, what's the biggest difference that you ever fought? What's the biggest person you ever fought in like a
200 pounds.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking big.
Yeah, pretty big dude.
Yeah.
But being comfortable in how I trained at the time and my just acumen of what I did, I knew it didn't matter how big the guy was, because I fought guys that were 250 pounds before and beat those guys. Like in the old days, when you train in the gym and you're the trainer and you're the fighter, there's not really like a semblance of like take care of each other, don't hurt each other. Everybody that came to the gym was trying to beat my ass. It was a whole different thing in the old days. It wasn't like that was respect, or they were going to spar, or we're going to put on gloves. I had no idea if you wrapped your hands or not, if you put on gloves, if you did whatever. It was just pretty much like open sparring.
Yeah.
And I had to beat your ass and then teach you that I could teach you something, and then get you comfortable to trust me to come back. Because there was guys that I beat their ass and they would never come back.
Yeah.
So it was just like it's a whole thing.
Yeah. And so you started out with the confidence, the knowledge that you knew that you could be an elite fighter. Was there a moment though when you had trained like a professional for long enough where there was a shift from I'm a bad motherfucker to I'm a professional world-class fighter? Do you know, can you talk me through like what that transition felt like, if ever?
The biggest difference from being like an amateur fighter and professional fighter, the stakes are higher, you get paid more, there's more spotlight on you, but because there's more spotlight on you, there's more attention. Because there's more attention, you get distracted easier, You become involved with what fans say, and what the critics say, and what the media says, and what your parents say, and now everybody's words are heavier. So it's like it's an ugly space to be in, because you know what you can do, but everybody's telling you different, And depending on how you perform that day or that moment, people, support you or hate you. And when I would do great, people were always like, oh, you're the greatest guy in the world, oh, you're great. And then when I didn't do good, I had a bad day. Oh, you suck, quit, give up, you should, it was just like it's a crazy feeling to have, to live, to ride in the sky and then be on the floor and then go back to the sky. It's a crazy feeling to have.
How do you deal with that? Especially when you're young.
You look at what's important. You look at what is in front of you and what stabilizes you, and you hold to that, and you push forward to that. And what those things were for me were family. They were close friends. They were like people who were like next to me. They weren't like everybody else, Instagram fans and shit like that. It was just people who were next to me, who still love me, who were still next to me. The only way I could hold on. That's why I haven't got this area. I could have this gym anywhere. Yeah. I could have it anywhere. But I'm here because of my family.
Yeah. So what are you doing? How are you making ends meet at this time? Are you making enough fighting, or do you have to work jobs, or what are you doing?
Well, I could fight like 3 or 4 years ago. So I haven't fought for a while. I wanted to fight again. And then I had 2 kids. I have 2 boys, 4-year-old and 5-year-old. And that kind of changed a little bit, When I had my daughter, I still fought, trained, and I was a world champion. I traveled and those things. And I was able to take care of her. And I was home, I was with her, but I missed a lot of moments that I had that I could have had with her, doing my thing. Now that I have my boys, for me it's more about them than me. I'm a little bit older, a little bit smarter, a little bit more experienced. I know that I could have a second one, a third one, whatever it is, but do I spend my time on myself, or do I spend it on other people? And that's the biggest thing that I look for myself. For me, it's more important to spend it on my children and my family than myself.
And your tribe, right? I mean, I see it. I just met Jill last night at a party in my neighborhood. Jill, if you don't know, you probably don't, is a member of the gym. The very first thing, like every time I meet anybody that knows you, the very first thing out of your mouth is how great you are and how much you care about the people in your tribe and how you take care of people. Was there anybody in your young life that you can think of that was represented that for you, or has it always just been you?
My dad, my mom, they were the influences in my life. They always took care of people. My mom, wherever friends came over, whoever they were, she'd feed them. She'd give them clothes if they didn't have clothes. She'd give them, drink. She would take care of them. My dad, coming from soccer practice, coming from the grocery store, he'd pick up a bone, make us go in the backseat, pick the bone, we'd give him some money, give him some food. Like, my dad would help guys out like that, And I got my heart from my parents, so I was very blessed to have good parents and be able to pay attention and like see how they gave back to the community. Even though they didn't have much, they still looked out for other people. And it just kind of like festered in me when I grew up.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So at what point do we go to Brazil? Was that the first big trip for you to start training?
The first huge trip, yeah, was Brazil. It was like I was training martial arts. I was doing MMA and kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, but it was all in the area. It was here in Indiana. It was in the harbor. It was like a substation or East Chicago, like a substation that was like a ghetto of Gary. And there was no gyms. There was a boxing gym, but I think a guy named Angel Manfred, he trained there in the beginning of his career. And it was closed down, so like there was nowhere. So I had to travel around. And as I started doing my travels, I would meet numerous guys that did wrestling or whatever they would do, but they were black belts in jiu-jitsu. But they learned from guys that were black belts. So I was like, fuck you, man. I want to meet the guy I want to meet the source,
Yeah.
Well, he's in Brazil. You gotta spend, Okay. So I was young. I could have went to parties, went to clubs, went to bars, but I saved money all year. And the year I would go to Brazil, 2 months, a month. De La Riva, Carlson, whoever it was. I would stay at that gym and I would find like a hostel or a little hotel or whatever it was, and I would like stay there.
So you go down and you start training with De La Riva, and it sounds like Carlson too. Excuse me. You go down and start training with these guys. Are you sleeping at the gym? You're spending time in hostels. What's that like for somebody you're not traveling for fun? I'm sure you had some fun, but
I didn't. More in those days, again, I regret not having more fun than I should have had, because I'm older now and I was younger then. But I was so dedicated to what I did. There was no drinking, no alcohol, no smoke, no women. It was just jiu-jitsu. I still have my notebooks from the old days where I would like go to class and do a 2-hour class with De La Riva and then write everything down in the hotel. Yeah, I still have those notes, And in the old days, it wasn't so much about like having a good time. It was about proving everybody wrong, proving myself right. Mm-hmm. Nobody thought I could do what I was doing. Nobody knew what I was doing. I didn't tell anybody. Right. I just wanted to come on the scene and be like something. And in the old days, it was different because like you would travel somewhere. The first time I went to Brazil, I stayed in a hotel. Me and one of my buddies spent like three grand a piece. Paid for a hotel. It was shitty. Paid for all this stuff. It was garbage. So the second time I went alone. And the first time we went, we were looking for De La Riva. In my mind, thinking I go to Brazil. Everybody knows jiu-jitsu. Right. Everybody knows what De La Riva is. Right. I get to Brazil. I'm asking the concierge. I'm asking the people in the front desk. I'm asking people outside. And no one has any fucking idea what De La Riva is. No one has any idea where this gym is. So now I'm like walking around the streets trying to find this gym. And I found like 5 other gyms. But they were like, I wouldn't say scammers, but they weren't De La Riva. That's all I'm going to say. And they're trying to talk me into doing their program and paying this money or whatever. They're going to help me. I wouldn't do it. And then finally, I was on a hotel right back from the mall. I went to the mall to get food, clothes, or whatever. I got some shit. And I came back. And on the way back, I seen a small circle that said De La Riva. Yeah. And I'm like, stop! We stopped in the middle of the street, get out of the fucking taxi, throw them some money, some cash, and then ran to the building. And they knew exactly who De La Riva was. And he wasn't in the 3rd floor. He was not in the 2nd floor. He was not in the 1st floor. He was in the basement where the fucking pool was, next to a giant Olympic pool. Pools are hot. The water's warm. There's a lot of moisture. He had the gym next to the mats, or next to the pool. Yeah. So the mats are next to the pool. It was so sweaty and so hot in there. And we do workouts, or he'd say something, and somebody walking with a baby or somebody was saying, he'd walk away. 3 or 4 minutes nonstop, the same shit, you know. And it was just like an old school training, and he got a bike from Carlson, and he revolutionized the game of jiu-jitsu. So he was like, for me, a big figure. The second I went back, went to the league, was third time I went back, he was like, dude, you're coming here and you're training, you're staying here for all this time. I got a bike from Carlson Gracie Sr. Carlson's in Chicago. You live, because I was saying from East Chicago, but no one knows where East Chicago is. It's Indiana, it's a hood.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, so I was in Chicago because my passport said Chicago. And I was sent from Chicago, you know. So, Carlson, Chicago, you can find Carlson. So I get back to Brazil, or from Brazil to Chicago, get back home, go to Chicago, and Carlson's in Brazil. So the first time I went to Carlson's gym, he wasn't even in the gym.
Yeah.
And he watched me fight like 5 or 6 times already. Because he was, at that time, it was illegal in Illinois. So in Chicago, they had other fights in Hammond. And Hammond's next to Chicago, so it's like my hood. And all the guys from Chicago, they wanted Chicago fighters, but they also needed somebody from the local area to like bring ticket sales. And at that time, I was the fucking main guy that sold most of the tickets. And then I went to Carlson's gym. Carlson's not there. I think I probably Stefan Bonner and like 3 or 4 other guys. I beat the fuck out of those guys. And Carlson's gonna come back next week. Carlson comes back. Car's bag over his shoulder. Pulls it down and starts throwing t-shirt. Like, it's the first day at his gym. Yeah. He's just throwing t-shirts. $40, $40. They were across the race shirts he got from Brazil.
Yeah.
He brought in a fucking grocery bag and just started throwing people and charging them money.
Yeah.
Fell from at me, and I grabbed the shirt. And I'm like, dude, I'm not even from your gym. I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
I haven't met you yet. You know, it was so funny how we met. And he recognized me, and we started talking. He told me exactly that day that he was going to make me a world champion. And I told him, you're going to make me a world champion. I'm already a world champion. You're going to help me. Like, we immediately like connected. And I started training at his gym, and everything like picked up huge. And then I think it was like the 3rd year, 4th year, he got really sick and he passed. And when he passed, I stopped going to Brazil. It was like I had the main source of knowledge for myself that was gone. And even though I adopted other guys to help me, to coach me and teach me things. I trained with many great professors after Carlson passed. And it was, for me, it wasn't the same. You know, he was an old school kind of guy that he had a personality and a style that was just unmatched. Even though the other guys maybe had more knowledge or more experience or whatever, more prowess, he was, for me, the source of what I gained.
Yeah, he was universally loved, but maybe for folks who might not know, talk to me about the significance of Carlson Gracie just when it comes to jiu-jitsu at large.
Well, he was a different person, you know. The Gracies normally trained people in Brazil that had money, that had like affluence. And Carlson was one of the first of the family to start training guys that were like poor. Or didn't
He's a
have
cousin?
anything.
Is that correct?
A brother or a cousin. I'm not sure. I don't follow the dynasty.
I'm not very good with the legacy, so for those of you guys out there in the comments, I'm sorry.
I don't care. I just know Carlson
Yeah.
didn't have what the other guys had.
Sure.
And he hung out with more ghetto people, more poor people. And he realized that he was going to build a fighter. He's not going to get a guy that has everything, that has a bunch of money and a house and a car, a bed and a wife and kids. He's going to get a guy that has nothing, that wants everything, you know. So coming up as a fighter, coming up as like from nothing, exactly why I wanted to be a fighter. I wanted to have everything, you know. It was just holding on to everything. It's hard once you get it because you're so busy doing what you're doing, you know.
Yeah. So what changed in the fight when you start training with these, you know, just pure-blooded jiu-jitsu fighters? Because you had already been a bad dude, right? You had already been a very capable fighter. What did you find that anything changed? Did things start to get simpler for you? Were there a broader range of attacks, or did you feel more comfortable? Did anything change about how you fought after you started to train under?
Are you talking about MMA or jiu-jitsu?
MMA, like you're in the cage, you're fighting.
Nothing changed.
Okay.
Because a black belt in jiu-jitsu doesn't mean shit when you're in the cage. because you're getting hit in the face. So whenever I fought black belts, they were really good. I've got tapped out by no belts, by blue belts. You know, in my career, I think I lost 2 or 3 fights to chokes where I fought the guys they sucked, but they hit me first, and I put my head down or whatever it was. You know, so whenever I fought a guy that was, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, he's a world champion, he's this, and jiu-jitsu, MMA is a whole different thing. You know, when you're fighting in MMA and you're a black belt and you just do jiu-jitsu and you get hit in the face for the first time, you get pissed, you get really shitty because you've never been hit in your face before. Then you get hit again, and you get to from a black belt to a brown belt. You start digressing, and you start making mistakes because you're not used to that pressure. So, in fighting, it's a little bit different because you're putting a different kind of pressure on somebody. Because you could throw knees, elbows, punches, headbutt, or not headbutts. In the old days, shoulder, butt, knee. You know, you could do all kind of weird things. So it makes jiu-jitsu a little bit different. It makes it more real. Because in real life, when you're wrestling with somebody, they're going to try to hit you as well. It's not going to just be just a wrestling match. So it's a nice concept to have the purity of jiu-jitsu for the sport, for fighting. Whole different thing.
What do you how are you learning striking and stuff at this time? Have you sought out any advice from anybody, or are you just training as far?
Oh, in the beginning, I was doing striking since I was like 6, 7 years old, trying karate and trying taekwondo and I would always sign up for classes, but they were like free for like 2 weeks or a month, and then after that, I was like, it's too expensive. So I do like 2 or 3 months of kickboxing, karate, jiu-jitsu, whatever it was, but then it was too expensive to afford because you got to do belt promotions, you got to buy sparring gear, you got to go to tournaments. Like most martial arts gyms are a scam, you know. They just try to get you to come on and buy all this shit, and my parents couldn't afford it, so I couldn't do it. So I didn't start 2 or 3 months and then stop. Start 2 or 3 months of lifting and then stop. And as I got older, I realized that when I would get bullied and I would use what I learned, it wouldn't work, and that would get me angry. Like my parents spent their time and their money, and like my dad was. I remember one time, my sister got into a fight at school, and I was already home because I was a nerd. I got home right away, and my dad got woken up. He worked midnights, so he was like 2 and 3 in the evening. Woke up, red underwear, hair is all slanted to the side, and my sister's like, "Oh, Dad, these guys touched my butt. They were hitting me. They were doing these things." My dad grabs me, hair to the side, puts on some jeans, puts on a fucking shitty sweatshirt, and we walk to the park where the kids are at. He walked to the park to fight those 2 boys. You know how, you remember Fight Club? When you had to like pick a fight with somebody?
Yeah.
I had to pick a fight with 2 kids who I didn't know who were bigger than me.
Yeah.
And they were playing basketball. So I had to wait. I waited by the rim for like 3 or 4 minutes so the game's over. They thought I had next. "You got next?" I'm like, "No, you touched my sister. I gotta fight you." And it got really weird. I think I threw a couple of front kicks, a back fist. I hit one guy in the balls. The other guy kind of like swinging at me. My dad was so embarrassed. He like grabbed me and took me out to the house. They were done. You know, karate. He's like, "You're done with this shit. We're gonna play soccer." So he didn't believe any of that stuff either. You know, like it didn't. It was a work because I was so young I didn't understand. And I still watched, you know, Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, Samurai Sunday, and all the, you know, martial arts movies, The Perfect Weapon, all those old movies. And I was enamored so much by that idea, that mindset, that I knew I had to meet somebody, and I just kept pushing through that shit.
Is there a style that you think you gravitate towards, other than just whatever you would call your style, but is there a certain discipline that you found to be beneficial in a way?
To be honest, Bruce Lee said it best when he said, "The perfect style is to have no style." Mm-hmm. But in that same respect, he made his own style. That I know guys are like Jeet Kune Do and poke him in the eye and hit him in the knee. So like everybody's personality has their own style. Everybody has their own style. I don't wear shoes. I wear shitty clothes. I have a mullet. I wear a fanny pack. Everybody's style is a style, man. Yeah. You know, your fighting style is, I'll train guys in what I know, but their personalities take them where they have to be. Everybody's style is different. Some guys crush, some guys are heavy, some guys flow, some guys move. Some guys don't know shit here in the middle. Like, they have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Right.
Everybody is different. Your jiu-jitsu is a reflection on how you live your life, in my opinion. You know, in my martial arts, I wouldn't even say just jiu-jitsu. Martial arts, or your martial style, or your martial law, or however you want to think of that. If it's weak, you live weak, you act weak, you respond weak, you do things as a weak person. How I met people in my life that were weak when I met them. When they trained and they advanced in martial arts, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, martial art, mixed martial arts, judo, wrestling, whatever the discipline is. When they hold themselves accountable to something and they show up every day and they get better at that, they get better at other things in their life, you know. So for me, training wasn't so much about being the best fighter. It was about being a better man, being a greater human being. It wasn't just like, I wanted to be a world champion. I wanted to be a better man. I wanted to be the best dad. I wanted to be the best lover. I wanted to be the best of what I can give to the world. Because our time is so short here. Even if you live 100 years, 200 years, in the span of the cosmos, what is that, you know?
Yeah.
Ain't shit. Who's going to remember you in 500 years? In the next generations, who's going to care what you did?
Yeah.
So what matters for me is what you could change right now. Because what you could change right now changes the world, one person at a time.
So let's go back to working with Carlson. So at what point were you, how closely were you working with Carlson, and at what level were you fighting at this time before he passed?
When I met Carlson, I think I had like 30 fights already.
Wow.
And he was coming to the Civic Center because he had fighters fighting there too, because there were no fights in Chicago. So all the guys from Chicago couldn't be Hammond. Hammond, Indiana was like 20 minutes from Chicago, in a different state. So it was legal there because we had no rules. And Carlson seen me fight the third fight, the fifth fight, the ninth fight, the main event. And so the last two fights he seen me fight, I was fighting main events and he's going to be fighting before me. But he would stick around and watch. And in those days I would come out like a mariachi band, like a 12-piece, like violins and trombones and bass and jumping, all this shit. And he was like impressed by that. And then he knew me already. So when I started going to De La Riva, he still had no idea who I was personally because we didn't talk. And fast forward like 2 years past that, the last time I went to De La Riva, he was like, dude, I don't train fighters. I do jiu-jitsu. Like I work techniques for gi and stuff like that. You're a no-gi guy. You do fighting. You gotta train with Carlson. And I'm like, who the fuck is Carlson? I had no idea who Carlson Gracie was. That's how dumb it was. I was a kid. This is before internet and YouTube and all the stuff. MySpace I think MySpace just opened up. And there was no Facebook or Twitter. And I'm like, who the fuck is Carlson Gracie? That's how dumb it was. He was, so-and-so's cousin and so-and-so's brother and da-da-da-da. And he trained all these fights. He was a fighter. He's in Chicago. So I got back and it was just a weird story how I met Carlson. Because like I had no idea who he was. And he was there like 20 minutes from my house. And I was going like 4,000 miles to Brazil to train with some guys along with jiu-jitsu. It was very funny.
Yeah, he's known for a very aggressive sort of pressure, smash, kind of bloody knuckles type of jiu-jitsu, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Carlson's style filled me 100% because I didn't learn subtlety when I was younger, or I learned jiu-jitsu. Whatever I learned was like, you had to use a ton of pressure and a ton of like force to force somebody into something. And when I met Carlson, I realized I could use pressure and not use force. It was a whole different mentality. Like I can pressure you and stick you and make you give me what I want if I pressure you the right way. So it was a whole different mentality. And then there was like the whole thing with jiu-jitsu. If I push you, you're gonna push back. So I can't really push you backwards. If I pull you, I can't pull you forwards because you're gonna pull back. So if I wanna push you back, I'm not gonna push you. I'm gonna pull you. So when you pull back, I can push you. If I wanna pull you forward, I'm gonna push you back. So when you push back, I'm gonna pull you forward. So that whole mentality of the push, pull, push mentality, I got that from Carlson.
so it's interesting because, and I'm one of your students, right? I learn from you all the time, and the detail and the nuance that you have over any given technique that we've discussed, there's like you're like a student of martial arts, which is just a beautiful thing. Were you a student of other things in school, or is it just this stuff that you're super focused on achieving it?
Well, I studied a lot of things in school. Like, I was a good student. I was in the honor roll program. I graduated with honors. I went to college. I graduated with a bachelor's in marketing. So, like, I wouldn't say I was smart. I was competent because I didn't really pay attention. I would work. I would play soccer, train martial arts. I would go to a job, go home at 2 in the morning, do my homework, eat dinner, fall asleep at 3 or 4, get up at 7, go to school. So I was always late, and they always told me I would never amount to nothing. I would never work for anybody or make a career for myself, and I would always laugh. And in the old days, it was just different. Like, it was just like I had to not prove to myself, I had to just prove everybody wrong that I knew I could do these things. And I just started proving people wrong. It wasn't that I was proving them wrong. I was proving myself right. I just had to push, you know. And that was one of the main things, just pushing forward.
And so after Carlson, are you training on your own for a while? Did you immediately start to work with another coach?
After Carlson passed, I think I had like a year on my own. And then things started getting heavy because after Carlson passed, I got WC. I won a world title. I defended it like 2 or 3 times, and things got really heavy. And I was doing media, I was traveling, I was doing all these different things that I wasn't like, it wasn't just training for a fight and living your life. It was like, now you have responsibilities, now you have to do all these different things. And there's guys, you wake up in the morning, the camera's in your face, and you walk to the bathroom. Can you do it again? And just, instead of sitting down when you pee, can you stop when you pee? And can you like brush your teeth? Like, it was weird, you know. And in my mind, I made it. You know, like, I went from nothing, and all of a sudden I'm like a world champion. And Carlson was warning me before I was a world champion. He would tell me about things, and I didn't understand it. You know, like, it was like, it makes my hair stand on my skin. Like, he would tell me, like, he would warn me about things, about girls and about women and about fame and about, you know, booze and just different things in life. Because I was so pure at that time. I was 26, 27. I was so pure. He seen that, and he knew that, you know, be careful, be careful, be careful. And then when he passed, all that shit happened. And I went through all that stuff. And it was heavy. But in that time, I trained with, after Carlson, I went to TriStar. I trained with Fraza Hobby. I trained with John Danaher. I trained with kickboxing coaches. I trained with Gia, the wrestling coach. I trained with all kinds of like great coaches. They were like it was a world-class gym. Yeah. So I went from like my own place to being like in a world-class facility, and I fit in 100%. I was a leader in the gym. I was like, you know, on track of things. And then from there, I think I went to the Black Zayans after that. And the Black Zayans, they had Mario Sperry, and they had all these fucking high-name Henry Hooft and all these like high-name strikers and high-name coaches. And you're talking about gyms that have like everybody in your class. There's 30, 40 people. They're all world-class fighters. Wow. There's not like, there's 40 guys, and there's Jim, and there's John, and there's Jack, and there's, you know, no, man. Everybody here is like a heavy hitter, a submission artist, a wrestling coach. Like, there's something heavy. And it was a whole different perspective because your coaches now are world champions, and your training partners are also fighters. So it's a whole different atmosphere because you're not like in a class of like, there's 5 white belts and a brown belt here. No, man, everybody here is a fucking hitter. And a different perspective from that. Black Zayans. I went to Asia. I started fighting in Asia, and I was training out there, teaching out there, but whole different perspective out there because their martial arts are they're adapting to our style at that time. Now I think they're caught up now. Yeah. Because steroid use and whatever they do, they're monsters now. But in the old days, they were trying to gain that knowledge from us, and I helped a couple of different gyms like do some stuff. But after CrossFit, that was pretty much just 2 or 3 gyms that I trained at were like high level instructors that got me out.
So let's go back to TriStar. Were you living in Canada at the time? What was that experience like? Were you training
I lost
full time up there? Or?
I lost to just a bit of Benavidez after I lost to Brian Bowles. I had 2 losses in a row. I was undefeated, and I was a world champion. And I lost twice in a row. Brian Bowles knocked me out. I walked into a left hook, and then when I fought Benavidez, I had bursitis in my elbow. And for bursitis, getting it drained every day, because I was training in Vegas, the UFC doctors were actually draining my elbow, and they kept telling me, "Hey man, this is not good. You can get staph infection. You got to be careful." So what happened 2 weeks after? I got a fucking nasty staph infection. My whole arm, from my fingertips to my shoulder. I have pictures. I have documentation of this shit. Swollen with infection. Doctor's like, "Dude, you could fucking die. Like, you got to be careful." I still doing antibiotics. It's like 6 weeks out to the fight, and the last 6 weeks, I just pushed sleds, I ran treadmills, I did bikes, I jumped rope. I couldn't spar nobody. I had a nasty staph infection in my arm. I go to fight, I go to the weigh-ins. The day of the weigh-ins, I get cut on my forehead with an elbow. One of my partners like elbowed me, hit my head, and it would have stopped bleeding. It just kept, it was gushing out. And Reed Harris, he was the president of WEC. He was the vice president or whatever he was. And he worked for the UFC after that. And he came to the hotel room with some crazy glue. And he stuck my forehead shut, told me to don't say anything. And I had told those guys like I shouldn't fight that fight. Fought that fight, didn't train for it, didn't spar for like the last 6 weeks. Got cut open from my forehead all the way down. I literally had my first cut open on TV in front of all my friends and family. And it was a hard loss, but it was a reality check, you know. And then after that fight, my sponsor from Echo, Mark Echo, and whoever from Canada, the main guys, I think his name was Ernie Parent, they sent me to TriStar. We know for us, a hobby, you know, he wants to work with you, da da da. So I go down. The first 2 years I lived in Canada, when I was staying out there, I was staying out there for like 2 or 3 months at a time. I was staying in Frost's basement. So every time I had a fight, I was staying in Frost's basement.
Yeah.
And that was one of like the worst experiences you could have, because like I didn't have my own light switch. It was upstairs. So never he wanted to come downstairs. He was like, "You here?"
Yeah.
Let's stroll. I looked to move. I seen him move. I wanted to move. And he had like a little gym next to where he slept, next to the washing machine and whatever else. But there was no like drywall. It was all like glass mirrors. It's like a little workout area. It's not safe to wrestle. And we start with a move. Put me in this move. See if I can get up. And I would start like we start wrestling.
Yeah.
We start fighting each other. So like he would be up 2 and 3 in the morning. "Hey, I'm gonna throw some jabs." "How many?" 1,000. And he bought a clicker. He wanted to work the clicker. And I would sit there and fucking. And if it wasn't a good jab, it wouldn't come.
Yeah.
So it was like having Pai Mei as a master, you know. And he was training St. Pierre and all these other fighters and all these things. And I was living with him the first 2 years. The third year I went down. The owner of TriStar Gym, who I hate, his name is Robbie. You'll see this one day, Robbie. I'm gonna come for you, fucker. He owned the building. His dad owned the building, and it passed to him when he passed. And so Robbie owns it now. So he had a whole bunch of offices next to a massage parlor, and that's where all the fighters stayed. So I started staying there, and I would live with Frost's brother. His name was Eamon, a great friend of mine. He's now in the UFC, I think, and doing well. And I had like 20 other guys that were younger than me, that were like under me, and they were like my crew. So I was staying in these weird, they were all like offices, but bunk beds and like little mattresses next to a massage parlor. It was kind of a cool place.
Okay.
I get many haircuts, many mullets.
So how does Firas the Hobby think about fighting compared to other folks that you've worked with? Because I know that he's known for being like a very analytical coach.
He's a martial artist. I mean, this guy dissects everything. Like, when I was with him, he wakes up watching fights and looking at technique, listening to podcasts. He goes to the gym and he trains. He teaches. Comes home, opens the computer, technique, watching videos, watching his own videos. This guy is like, I don't want to say obsessed. He's a true martial artist. You know, I have nothing bad to say about Frost. The guy's a true martial artist, and he's made great martial artists. You know, so this guy's for me, he's a Paime.
Yeah, I get that. So if you don't know, Paime is it's just from Kill Bill, or was there? Yeah.
Paime is a real person, first of all.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't think it was just.
He's a real person.
Yeah. But it's the stereotypical guru at the top of the mountain where you're climbing up 1,000 stairs to get there, and he's just brutal, but he's super good.
He learned everything he could learn, and then when he learned everything he could learn, he crushed everybody.
Yeah, yeah. And so, did Faraz ever compete? Do you know much?
I think he did a little stint in kickboxing in the beginning when he started out in martial arts, but he never really fought martial arts or anything there.
Some of the best coaches, though, I feel like, come from, they have a lifetime of learning it, and then they pass it on in this analytical.
To me, it's different, you know.
Yeah.
I'm biased because I fight.
Yeah.
But I feel like what I tell a martial artist or a competitor is heavier than what someone who didn't do that tells somebody. You know,
Yeah.
You can earn somebody's trust and have a bunch of money because your parents left you a bunch of money. You're a trust fund kid and you're rich and give them financial advice. And you could be a poor person who never had any money and make a fortune and then give somebody financial advice on how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The perspective is different.
Yeah,
you know.
that's fair.
So I'm not saying he's a horrible coach or a bad. He's one of the best coaches. He coached me, one of the best coaches in the world. But in my perspective, I respect a guy like Carlson, who fought 2 hours, 30 minutes in a fucking ring, in Speedos and no gloves and no wraps and no mouthpiece, just fight somebody for 2.5 hours. Then take a break, then go back and do it again, you know? Then somebody who never stepped in there. I get the persona and the mentality. You know how to coach somebody. You're a good teacher. You're a good teacher, a good talker, a good coach. But it's different when you've actually been in there because you've smelled the sweat, you smelled the blood, you've tasted it. You know, you felt the pain. It's a little bit different. When you tell somebody to do something and you've done it yourself, then when I tell you to do it, I never did it myself. You know?
Yeah, I understand that. I think Customato though didn't fight either. There's a few coaches in history that were not, you know, highly renowned, but I understand the weight of it is different.
Customato is a little bit different.
Yeah.
You're talking about like he did something else. He still fought, even though he didn't fight in the ring. I guarantee you, he still fought somewhere.
Oh, sure, but for
that
us,
man,
yeah.
that man is for sure a fighter, for sure. Customato, I won't talk shit about him. I never knew him. I never spoke to him. Just watching what he says. That man fought for something. Whether it was not fighting in a cage, that man fought for something.
What about, you mentioned John Danaher. At what point is he there in Canada with you guys, or at some point? I know he worked with Tri-Star.
Well, he came down in Canada. He was training St. Pierre for a couple of fights that I was doing the training camps. I was out there at that time. And he was fucking vicious, man. He would like show something and like say some words, and he'd walk away and sit down. You're so profounded by his words, you know, that I gotta do the actions. Then I would like train, I would wrestle, and he would appreciate my style, because I was like, I didn't go for 1,000 moves. I went for one move the whole time. I was going for your neck the whole time.
Yeah.
And he was a different kind of a coach because his approach was more analytical. It was more like, this is why this happens. This is why you do this, and when he does this, and you know, like there's so many variables when you do a move, but he was so precise in how he broke it down that it was like learning from like a professor in college, like at a master's level or something like that. It was a whole different perspective.
Yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, John Danaher has become probably the leading, at least no-gi coach in the world for jiu-jitsu.
I'd say so, yes.
Yeah, and he's also made, myself and our Jamie today, Mo, we both have benefited from some of his courses and things like that. And I think you're right, the way that he is super analytical about the way he thinks things through. And he's another one, I know that he's, been competitive, but he's another one who, I think because of some leg injuries, has not been a fighter. But he was like a bouncer for many years out in Henzo's place.
He was a professor at a college.
He was a professor at NYU, you're right.
So we have to understand why he could speak so well because analytical skills are so good. This guy can break shit down and he knows how to talk to people. He's a true character because he's the way he is all the time. He's not just sometimes I'm jumping on her when I'm in the gym and I go home with a different person.
Yeah.
This guy is the same guy everywhere he goes. We go to a club, fanny pack,
Rash guard.
hold on, rash guard, parachute pants,
Yep.
Ready to fucking go down. I got jumped last week and I was like, damn, I should have fucking worn parachute pants. I should have worn. I was thinking a whole different way.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I saw a picture. Mo sent me a picture of him when he was a bouncer, and he looks like a balloon, man. He's huge.
Yeah.
But just like you're wearing your gi pants tonight. Your no shoes, just like me typically.
Like every day.
Yeah, like every day.
Every day, man.
I mean, that's dedication. I think there's something. So we've talked a lot about being a fighter, but let's talk a little bit about what it means to live a warrior's lifestyle, because that's something that I see in you everywhere you go. It doesn't have to do with whether or not we're in a cage or something like that. So what does that mean to you, and what would you share with others about it?
A warrior's lifestyle is not about just being a good fighter. You have to be a good human being. You have to do right wherever you go. You have to take care of those that need your help or those that can use your help. Being a warrior is not just being strong and being big and being fast and beat people up. It's what you do with that helps the world. So for me, in my perspective, to be a true martial artist is to be able to take care of yourself, at the same time take care of those around you that need your help. And the bigger you can encompass that spectrum of helping other people, having an academy or having a small gym in your garage or teaching in your room or whatever it is, teaching your kids, as long as you give back, the more you give back, the more you martial artist you become. So guys like Carlos and Gracie or De La Hiva or John Danaher, guys like that, they give so much to the world. They're not really helping themselves anymore, even though they are. They're kind of helping everybody else. So for me to be the true martial artist is not being the best kicker or puncher, or I can throw you on the ground or I can submit you. What do you do with that? How do you make the world a better place with your knowledge and with your experience? So for me, that's how I define a true martial artist, or what a great martial artist is. How you change the world. Like a guy like Bruce Lee changed me, made me what I was. If I didn't have Bruce Lee, I wouldn't probably be who I was. If I wasn't who I was, I've met numerous guys at tournaments. I was 7 years old and I see you fighting in WC, and I was skinny and I didn't think I could do it. I started training and I, became this, and now I'm in jiu-jitsu. I met so many guys like that. If I didn't see that from Bruce Lee and didn't think I could be like him, people couldn't be like me. If I couldn't be like De La Hiva or Carlson or those other guys. So all these different men in my life that have, even my father, have played a role of being a hero and giving back, helps me to learn and want to give back.
So in those terms, is the purpose of gaining strength so that you can give to others that don't have it?
What is strength if you can't give it to somebody else?
Yeah.
What if you make the best food in the world? You make the best tacos, but only you eat them. How good are those tacos?
Nobody will know.
If you never cook for somebody and see them enjoy it in their face when they take that first bite, they smell the air. Oh my God, what is that? They take that first bite, they eat the whole plate. If you've never seen that, you never ate. In my perspective, I've won world titles. When I see my students, the kids, the adults, whatever they are, they win first place, they win a title, they win something. Man, that feels so much better than when I gained it. Because when I gained my world title, I gave it to my dad. I don't want it. Here, it's for you. I did this for you. I just gave it away right away in the interviews. And they were like, get the title back. You got to put it on the table. For me, it was like a whole different thing. If you don't give back to your community, to me, it shows me who you are. So I can tell like what kind of person people are by how they act and what they give back. And that's why I love being in the gym so much. Because I'll meet you for the first day, and I can tell what kind of person you are, how you act, and how you train, and how you breathe, and how you move, and how you listen, I can tell how you were raised. I can tell certain traumas. I see so many things now, doing this for so long, over 20 years. You just learn a lot of shit about people, you know. So for me, the purest thing about living for me is how you train. Because how you train is how you live. You give up or you don't. You push or you don't. You go forward or you don't. You give up or you don't. And that's in everything. It's not just in the gym. That's my perspective. I may be a little disillusioned, I'm sorry, but that's how I think.
We're here for your perspective today, so that's okay. But I agree. I happen to agree with you. I think that you could tell so much. Is there a better? Maybe this is the question. Is there a better metaphor for life than fighting or jiu-jitsu?
No, because if there was no society and there was just people shit in the area, we'd fucking have to fight for food, fight for women. It'd be caveman days, till we make a civilization. But once you make a civilization, you still need dangerous men, It can't just always be nice. It's in a perfect world, yes, of course. We all play video games and we eat tacos and it's great. But in the world, it's not like that,
What do you think about that? What do you think about the fact that most people don't have to live hard lives anymore? Let me rephrase that many people don't have to live truly hard lives anymore.
People in first world countries still gotta live hard lives, unless you're a bum living under a bridge. But even then, it's not that hard. Even then, it's not that hard because there's still help you can get. I've traveled to many countries. In third world countries, if you're poor, you're fucked. You shit in a hole. Like, you catch your food, you gotta clean it, you gotta skin it, you gotta cook it, you gotta do all kind of stuff. Like, it's a whole different process of living in a third world country. Second world country, some running water, it might get you sick, it might not. You could take a shower, but be careful, because you don't want to, get any of that shit in your body. Like, there's flies that can give you malaria. Like, there's cartel people that can kidnap you, or, like, we're lucky. People in America, I think, are lucky. But in the perspective of a fighter or fighting, guys that grow up in hard situations, for me, are the better fighters because they have to earn more than guys who were not given everything but blessed with everything.
It's hard to take that hard of a road.
It's
right?
hard. Yeah. It's hard to be an ugly person when everything in your life was nice. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As a person who grew up ugly and has some nice things, and met people from all walks of life, people that have everything, people that have nothing. The guys who have nothing are going to fight a little bit harder for what they don't have than somebody who, well, if I don't win tonight, I can just, go home to my nice wife and silk my kids and my silk sheets and my 100-count Egyptian cotton, whatever the fuck, So it's for me, when I meet guys, I meet so many guys that come to the gym and they're like, call Dana White. I'm going to be the next Ultimate Fighter. I've been in 100 gang fights. I fought in the street my whole life, or I grew up this way, or I'm this tough, or my dad was a Marine, or okay. How old are you? What do you do? Do you have any kids? Do you have a job? How do you pay for yourself to live? Do you live with your mom or your I asked them basic questions. These guys can get past the basic, simple questions correctly before they can talk about fighting. And I'm like, dude, so many guys are, they think so far ahead before taking care of the initial issues that they never get there. That's why a dream is always a dream, because you never wake up. You know, they always are dreaming of this and dreaming of this. I know. And you know what? They probably could do it, but because they don't take care of A, B, C, and D, they're not gonna get to Z. You know, so that's my small input on that shit.
Yeah. How many real fighters, from the moment you met them, have you met in your gym?
Well, they're all real fighters because they all fought.
I don't mean that.
The guys that made it. The guys that made it.
Yeah.
No, let me elaborate. All the guys that I trained, they were fighters. The guys that made it, honestly, were the guys that went out of themselves. They left this area. I had a fight gym, same place I have, like area I have now, but it was in Hammond. And I had like 20, 30 fighters. And I was a world champion. I was traveling at this time to TriStar. And I couldn't do both. I couldn't manage a group of 20 guys fighting and train them and train myself in Montreal and then, you know, be at their fights and, you know, be at their classes and all that stuff. So I would tell the guys, don't take a fight till I'm done with my fight. Take your fight after my fight so I can be back home and train you and work with you and go over all this stuff. And, there was other guys that I had hired in my gym. They were assholes that would tell the guys, well, Miguel's not here. He don't care about you. If you want to fight, do private lessons with me twice a week, 3 times a week, and I'll get you a fight or I'll talk to this guy. Because it was still my gym. It's just the guy running it. So all these guys started fighting. And then other guys started leaving and opening gyms. You know, I think I have like 2 or 3 gyms that I compete with in this general area that the guys are my own students. Yeah, so fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. So yeah, it's fucking hilarious. I literally train these guys for 10 years plus. And then they get to a level and they're like, oh, Miguel's not here. He's, you know, doing this thing. I'm gonna leave it up on my own shit. And I had that happen like 2 or 3 times when I was doing my fighting. And then, fuck, I forgot what the question was. I got angry.
No, you're good. This is good.